you can just start a company. You can just go to KVK and start a company without needing any expertise. So after that, I was like, all right, I'm going to start a company. And I was like, oh man, this is gold. I need to be in somehow.
You come in as a partner. What's the first thing you do?
Ads, not done. Sending cold emails, not done. So I was also, all right, I'm kind of limited here. It's kind of a baller move to say, we don't do ads. So I was in this call, which is like this massive company, 10 people from legal, marketing, engineering, just rapid firing all these questions at me. Everyone there was like, what the fuck am I doing here? My focus was just completely off. It's because of how the startup landscape is portrayed. Bootstrapping is, I think, in the beginning, just way harder because you are so limited by, you just have time is on your side, but you don't have any money. Every day is a reality check.
What do you think is the most important ingredients for a marketer or marketing team to be successful when budget is limited?
Co-founder or solo founder?
Co-founder.
All right, so if you go on your LinkedIn, right, you can see that you're actually quite public about what's the current ARR of your companies and when that's going to happen. And then we're going to see how far off you are when you actually reach the goal.
Okay.
All right. We have our second ever guest, Adriaan Brands. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Really excited. So let's talk about your background. Adriaan, you are the co-founder of Simple Analytics. I would describe you as a serial entrepreneur. You've founded several bootstrap companies, Simple Analytics being probably the one that people are most familiar with at this stage. You're on a mission to bootstrap Simple Analytics to 1 million ARR, currently at around 385K, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
This is with 2 people?
I'd say 2.5, but it's like 2 and some help.
Very cool. Yeah, of course. You have a team around you guys, but it's you and your co-founder driving this bus, right?
Yeah. No, definitely. And I wouldn't say, to be fair, I'm not really the co-founders because Adriaan started it himself, which was about like 5 years ago. And I only joined, I think, but it's now 2.5 years ago. So what you call that? Like a late co-founder?
Still works. It still works.
I would say, once you hit that product market fit and, if you're there through the early days, the longer the journey goes, the less of a question that becomes. You've also founded another company, which is uni-hosted, where you guys host unified controllers in the cloud. I'll be honest, I don't know what that means.
I didn't know before I started. I had no idea what that was.
You will have to tell us more.
We'll get to that. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Look, let's just start where we always start, which is, what is your origin story? Where did you start and how did you get to what you're doing here?
All right. Yeah. So I actually started like being an entrepreneur, I think it was 5 years ago. Like I was in uni in Maastricht. So I am from Maastricht, studied in Maastricht. And then at one point I was studying, doing a master's in finance, and everyone went into like consultancies or whatever. And I thought, okay, let's go with the flow. And I did an internship at a consultancy, and I was like, man, like this is not it. They can't be it. It's so boring. Like it was like a nice company, nice people whatsoever. But I was like, nah, this can't be it. And then I did an internship at a startup. Which kind of like failed big time, but I learned so much. But the thing I took with me was like, you can just start a company. You can just go to KVK and start a company without like needing any expertise. So after that, I was like, all right, I'm going to start a company. I have no idea what, but I want to start a company. So I met up with one of my mates from university, and we were like, okay, what should we start? We were like both not engineers, so we couldn't build anything. So we're like, we're still kind of students. So we're like, maybe we can make a marketplace for students, connect them with internships at companies, and then that's going to be like the next Uber. So easy as that, right? But then like 5 years ago, we didn't know nothing. We're like complete idiots, and we like this the easiest idea we could think of, but we just went for it. And the company is called Fix. It's actually still alive. Niels, so my co-founder, is still running it. But that was, I think, so that was probably started at like maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And then actually, I think we've come full circle now, because when I was with Niels, we were like, we're just super into like how do we grow this thing? We couldn't build. We like focused on growth. So what do? You take like like read business books, but also podcasts. And one podcast we listened, obviously, it's a Sean Ellis podcast, and you were on it, right? You were like at the printing company.
Yeah, 3D hubs.
Yeah. So I was listening with Niels. I remember we were saying, we should do what this guy is doing. Like he was doing like A/B testing and that kind of. But we had like 10 users.
We had a bit more budget, I think, at that time.
Different stage.
But that's nice to be like listen to your podcast and I'll be on your podcast. But then we somehow made it work. So there was nothing like validation, product market fit. We just kept on just like going at it,
Grinding,
just trying, and just I did like maybe like 2,000 like sales calls and just pitching the thing, and companies were like, yeah, I don't really have this problem. But eventually, I think we kind of scaled until like 120K ARR with margins like 60%. So that's all right for one person, but not for two. And just this took like a very long time. So at one point I was like, okay, maybe this is not it anymore, or you're actually at the position where it's like too big to actually shut down, but also it's not going to scale. So you're like, you have like it's not the golden, like maybe the bronze handcuffs or something. Like you don't know which side you're going to go, and you get kind of stuck. So at one point, then I moved to Amsterdam, and the major issue I had with Fix is that we couldn't build anything. So I was like, maybe I should learn how to code. I didn't like coding, but I thought maybe that's needed. So I did like a no-code course. And then there was this other guy who was also in the no-code course. We met up, and that was super nice. I was new in Amsterdam, and I was like, hey, maybe we can try and get a meetup of like other people, indie hackers. I was kind of like going into that direction. There's like people building products themselves and bootstrapping. Maybe we can do like a meetup. And he knew a bunch of people, and one of them was Adriaan. So we did a meetup. I had a conversation with Adriaan, and he basically told me, or I said like, well, what are you doing? And he said, I'm building this analytics tool. And I said, all right, cool. And is it making any money? And he's like, yeah, I'm doing 10K a month. And I was like, all right, that's impressive. One person company. Yeah. So how do your clients find you? And he said, well, I have no idea, man. They just do. And I was like, oh man, this guy is gonna be like, this is gold. Like I need to be in somehow. And that was at the stage where I was kind of letting go of Fix a little bit more. But it still took like 6 months before we actually met up again. I was like, hey man, I'm actually ready to start thinking about something else. Do you need a partner? And he was like, yeah, I can remember a conversation, and maybe this will work. And then we did like, because he was alone, I was like, okay, we need to figure out whether we actually match, because that's the number one thing. Like companies get,
because you guys didn't know each other at this point, really.
Yeah. We had no idea. We just had one conversation, and then through the phone, because I called him and said, hey, are you looking for a partner? So that's it. So we met up and was like, okay, how can we make this like kind of work, but also like go out of each other's ways if it doesn't work, and just easy, because you didn't want to get caught up in like legal and all that bullshit. So I told him like, okay, I'll start like just doing some work for you, because I was also just looking for new projects to take on, and that was fine. And at one point he said, okay, I told him like, if you want to do this like real partnership, long time, then I want a big piece of the pie. Like I'm an entrepreneur, and like if you're willing to give that up, like we should start thinking how we want to do it. But if you're not, and you just want like me as a freelancer, then it's not going to work for me. So that was a question, and he was like, yeah, actually I want to give up a big piece of the pie if it helps me scale from like 10 to whatever, because that's going to be 70 or 60 or 80% of Adriaan, and Iron is going to be worth more than 100% of Adriaan if he would stick by himself. So I was like, okay, then let's do it like this. I'll just work for you for 3 months, like 2 days in the week, and it's just completely free. And at any moment, you can just cut it up if you don't want to. But if like after 3 months, we feel like, hey, there's something here, this is like going to be a good team, then I'll need a big piece of the pie. And then we actually, like after 3 months, even after 1 month, we were like, oh, fuck, this is going to work.
Nice.
So yeah, that's how we got started.
Cool story. Crazy how, I had well, very different, but, with my previous company, also my co-founder, we met on 2 phone calls and said, let's just start a company. So it's funny how you have some companies where founders go back to, oh, we were roommates in college, and some, you just meet and it just works. What stands out to me is like trust is such an important part there, because you basically said, I'll work for you for free for a while. So you were like willing to, show that,
Mhm.
you're interested,
Also
you're
a bit of
engaged.
risk. Like he put in a lot of risk by thinking about me, and because
Yeah.
he was doing and already built a company. Like I didn't have to do the hard part. The hard part is like starting it and actually getting traffic and
Mm.
customers. So I was like, all right, let me put in some risk here as well. Like that,
Oh, it's nice. You guys are meeting halfway, actually. On
yeah.
that. So that was pretty cool.
And I remember the point. Like this is always like a very delicate thing, right? Like working with co-founders and like equity sharing and how you're going to do it. And a lot of founders get like into to, like arguments because the one is putting more work or whatever. um so and even like if you go into these negotiations, like it's actually the worst thing is actually getting the best deal,
Hmm.
because we need to make sure that both of you have the best deal. Like normally in negotiations, you're trained to, or whatever, you want to get the best deal or whatever. But we were like, okay, are you
You both
happy?
need to be
Yeah.
happy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you happy with this? Yes. Or you want a bit more? No. Okay, we're happy. You happy? You happy? And
Yeah.
then we were like, all right, we're both happy. Let's continue. And that's the last time we ever talked about like
Hmm.
this stuff, because from there on, it was just focus on the business.
Yeah. That's great. So let's go practical. You meet this guy, you like what he's doing. You see that he's sitting on something because there's natural traction, which usually is a sign of good product market fit, which is what a lot of companies, it's the opposite. They somehow artificially boost the traction, but there's no real product market fit underneath. So there's something there. You work together on some kind of loose basis for a while. You come in as a partner. What's the first thing you do?
Try to learn what the tool is all about. No, I mean, like,
Assuming you've done that in the 3 months where you were kind of collaborating.
yeah, so I was actually trying to understand what were like the users uh, like. What types of users do you have? How are people actually coming in? Because obviously there's some ways that people actually find you, and just try to create like a whole picture of like what's going on right now, and from there you can actually start like testing new channels and see what works, what doesn't work. Man, I've got loads of going on there. But yeah, so that's in the past 2.5 years, we basically tested everything and see what works. You're just pushing buttons and then push the one that's working and you push the hardest. And to be honest, he liked working with me because he thought I was a good marketeer. And I'm like, I think probably doing well, but I'm not this like, what do you guys call it? I think you called it, or made like the T-shaped marketeer, like
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
the
A bit
technical,
of everything.
man. I don't know any like A/B testing or Python. It was way more bare bones. It was also we didn't have any funding. It was just like, all right, just figure it out, see what works, and then
Yeah, but I think
Yeah. Sorry. No, I was just curious. So when you join, what was actually bringing those customers at the beginning? So what was the journey like there?
um, so I think Adriaan got most of the first customers through Hacker News, which was like the crowd which was on there. It's like they're like this the developers,
Yeah.
anti Google, whatever, and because yeah, Simple Analytics is a Google Analytics alternative basically.
mm,
So we make it more simple, privacy friendly, because Adrian thought, hey, like this is just this Google Analytics. This is monstrosity. It's like it's complex. Not everyone needs it. So he, as an engineer that is annoyed, well, annoyed engineers build then their own stuff. Then he launched on Hacker News, and then boom, people were like, holy shit, this is what I want.
mm,
So he got on the front page of Hacker News, I think, multiple times. So that's where I think the first like 100 users came from,
mm.
and, like people actually loved the product, and they just told other people, and that's how like
Word of mouth.
Yeah.
word of mouth. Yeah.
Yeah, good product market fit.
Yeah.
That's
Definitely.
that's great. And then so it's interesting because you talked about, oh, I'm not a T-shaped player and I don't do all this technical sales. But honestly, no matter how skilled or experienced you are, the first thing you should do when you enter any kind of growth marketing project, initiative, company, whatever, team, is figure out who the hell is buying this thing? Who are we selling to? And it's funny that you will have people who are amazing at A/B testing, and they'll jump into that before even thinking about who's the customer. So it occurs to me, at least when I see your posts, when I see you talking, that you guys have a really strong idea of what kind of company buys simple analytics, right?
Yeah,
Is that something that you kind of went in thinking this is really important, or is it more you're bootstrapping, you need to try stuff, and you keep iterating your way until you get to that definition?
I think it's a bit of both because obviously as a bootstrap company, you're kind of limited. And then my co-founder is a privacy-minded guy, so he was like, "All right, Elon, before you start, ads not done, sending cold emails not done." So I was also all right. I'm kind of limited here because it was obviously I kind of like that as well. It's kind of a baller move to say like we don't do ads, and because we are we're not fighting Google. It's like we're not taking any market share of them, but it's like for us it feels that way, and we don't want to like with our like the money we get from our users actually like
Give it back to Google.
give it back to Google and reinforce that like their ecosystem, even if it's like a drop on the plate, but it's not doesn't feel right for us to do that. So we don't do any ads, and also like sending cold emails is a bit of a privacy issue there as well. So Adriaan was like, okay, that's not off. That's not what we do. So we need to figure out something else. So you're kind of limited in that sense because you don't have budget. It's just me and it's just Adriaan.
So what is the something else?
Yeah.
That's a good one. So we tried like lots of stuff, and also a lot of like fuck ups. And I'll do the fuck up first, which was at my previous company at Fix, everyone came through like sales. So just doing outreach and get on a call with a customer and make them convert to actually become a customer. So I was like, all right, I kind of figured it out in my previous company, so I'll probably figure it out here. But man, that didn't work because like if you're selling
Different audience, huh?
yeah, but if you're selling like vacancy spots, people would be like, oh yeah, sure, I'll put mine on your platform as well, and if we get the right customer, like the right student through there, I'll pay you, fine. But not everyone is every day looking for a different analytics solution, so you would never like get them on the right spot. And then also your product needs to fit with the channel. I think there was this guy, I think it's Brian Balfour. He has this framework which is like 4 checkboxes, and one of them is I think channel product fit, which basically means like if you're selling enterprise software, like you're not gonna rely on
TikTok,
whatever. Yeah, exactly. I was just thinking. So simple analytics, if you want to start, costs €9. So if I'm going to do sales calls for €9, that's probably not the best solution. So I was in this, but I didn't think about that. So I was in this call, which is like this massive company. It was, I think, a company that built like healthcare equipment for hospitals. And so it's a massive company, but that's not a big website because who goes to that website, like salespeople or something. But they were in the call with me, like with 10 people from legal, marketing, engineering, just rapid firing all these questions at me about the analytics tool. And then like the main guy, he basically said, all right, pricing, what are we talking about? So I was like, okay, our pricing is based on like page views. So if you have a big website, you pay more than, for example, if you have a small website. So what is the amount of page views that you have? And he was like, yeah, on average, it's like 80,000 page views a month. And I was like, all right, so yeah, that will be €9 a month then. And then you saw everyone there was like, what the fuck am I doing here? And then even one of the developers basically said like, yo, dude, if you want to have this tool, just use it. And then he just logged out and just went away. And then the guy was also looking at me. He's like, mate, if you just said 500 a month, that would be a sign off. You said 9. So I was like,
You like underpriced yourself,
Yeah.
basically.
Big time.
Big time. So from now on, if anyone wants to call, it starts at 500. So that didn't really work. But I'm probably maybe not also the best guy on sales. So if you're very good at sales, you can always like hit me up and maybe try it. But so what did work was SEO. Um, so like I believe there's two phases in growth. So the one phase, which is actually going from 0 to 1. Let's say you start a company and you want some like get traction. Um, I think you don't need to think about like all these like long-term strategies. It's just like get out there and find customers to talk to, like send LinkedIn messages, do like be very scrappy, launch on product hunt, like interact on forums,
Yeah, hustle.
just hustle to get like the first customers into the door. So Adriaan already kind of did that, and like he went to like from 0 to 1, that's from 0 to 10K MRR. So after that, then it was like time, okay, maybe like this is already working, so maybe we just think about like sustainable like ways to grow the business, like that you can actually continue and scale. And so SEO was one of them that worked out pretty well, so I focus a lot on that. And actually it's interesting now, we only start thinking about like doing more product-led growth, which was actually one of the first things that actually worked in like very small, because it's basically word of mouth that worked. But now we are thinking, okay, how can we actually make the flywheel fly bigger? And so we debated a lot, but we're actually going to add a free plan, which is we're 5 years in now, and we're now going to add a free plan. That's also the thing about being bootstrapped, is adding a free plan is like a risky move, because we need money to survive. Like if it was VC funded, I don't care about money. I want users and just figure out the money later. But like I was like, if we had a free plan, maybe people that are actually paying just move back to the free plan. So we did like then we needed to figure out really who our users are. So we need to go really deep. Who is buying this and who might be like switching back. And then we found something interesting, which was we have multiple groups now. So we started off with this like the developer on Hacker News that started using it, but since we've like grown a bit bigger, also businesses start using it. And we found out that most of the revenue actually is driven by businesses. Well, okay, that's not like yeah, we figured that out. So the businesses are actually driving the revenue, but still the developers are the most vocal about this. So the
So
ones
who do
that
you listen to?
yeah, so the ones that actually love the product the most are not bringing in the most revenue. And businesses, they just swipe their card, use it, kind of like it, but they don't tell other businesses. It's the developers that actually start just spreading out the word. So we were like, okay, can't we get more of those developers in? Because the developer with a side project that uses Simple Analytics pays €9 a month. It is like it's a drop on a plate, but he also has a job. He works in the company. And when they discuss like, hey, should we switch to another analytics tool? This developer say, hey, I'm using Simple Analytics on the side project. Maybe start looking into that.
It's your own brand ambassadors, basically.
Exactly. And this is actually how a lot of companies came into the door, because they had a developer or a marketeer working that said, hey, I'm using this for my personal side, that it's nice and cool, and maybe this is something we want to use. And then like it's like the Trojan horse, basically. So we were like, okay, if we would strip away like the money we get from like the small developers or whatever, we could probably 10x that amount, because it wouldn't be free. And then a lot of people like these types of clients where I don't actually want the money from, they come in, use it for free. Most of them still work at a company. They just put it on like a side project or a blog or whatever, because they don't need complex Google Analytics on a side project that has 100 visitors every month. So they will just use Simple Analytics. That's the assumption, obviously. But and then they work at a company, and when the company is discussing, hey, we should use a different analytics tool, they just vouch for us.
It's like a weird brand ambassador cross-sell kind of strategy.
It kind of is, yeah.
I have maybe like follow-up question that it's not directly linked to this, but I think it's interesting. It's like, I feel like, especially now since you have GA4, right? I think all the marketers we talk to, everybody's kind of complaining about it and nobody likes it. It sucks. Like you go on LinkedIn and like you see at least a post today about why we don't like GA4. But I have the feeling, because I'm part of it as well, I keep using it. So what do you think is the biggest blocker to actually get people out of GA4 to use tools like Simple Analytics, for example?
It's free. That's it. It's like we're competing with a free tool, and you have to pay money to use us. So even if you have like a project or like a business you want to use analytics on, like the default is just go analytics. You're not making any costs. It's just free for us. We start until I think next week when we launch a free plan. We're charging at least €9 a month, and if you don't make any money, then you'll keep just using GA4. That's for like the people that are, I would say, just the developers and
Yeah.
the indie hackers and people that have a blog. And for companies, it's obviously Google Analytics, the most well-known thing is just the default. You just go there, and you don't know a lot about like other alternatives. That's my job to actually get the
Create this
name,
awareness.
create some awareness. And then again, also a lot of companies just rely on it because we are privacy friendly and simple. So we're built for simple analytics and also for people that actually care about privacy and compliance. But there's also a lot of companies that like rely on ads, and Google is GA4, even if it sucks, it's just like the most powerful and complex analytics tool out there that gets a lot of companies a lot of revenue, and we can only do like 10% of what insights they can provide you. So if you really need that, you still need to go through it and use it.
You talked about as a bootstrap company. Now, the last couple of years, there's been a lot of changes in the funding landscape. A lot of VC-backed companies got burned. There's a lot of people thinking about moving in a bootstrap direction. We're also building the growth syndicate around this idea of find different kind of forms of revenue, then build around a community, build with a community, that Arvid Kahl kind of embedded entrepreneur stuff. So this is a big trend. First question, you've always been bootstrapped.
Yeah.
Has that been a conscious decision or just how it happened? That's kind of first question.
How it happened, actually. But now it's conscious, but before it was how it happened. And I think both are not like wrong. You could go either way, with just what fits with your company. For example, by the way, I'll phrase it like this. I think the problem here is actually like the media and TechCrunch, and because that's how I got tricked in wanting to have VC funding in my first company. So when we started Fix, like you go on LinkedIn, you read the like Lean Startup, you read all the Sprout, the media, and there's always like articles. Oh, they got so much funding. They got so much funding, and you see three guys on the bridge
Vanity
in
metrics, yeah.
on the bridge in Amsterdam, and I was like, I need to be that guy. Like I want funding now because that's apparently how it's supposed to go.
It's a sign of success, people think.
It's a sign of success. And I wanted to be interesting. I wanted to be cool. I wanted to be on Sprout, BNR, TechCrunch, whatever.
On the bridge.
Yeah, on the bridge, making pictures.
With a white shirt.
Like seed funding or whatever. So when I was at Fix with my partner, Niels, we were like, oh man, we need funding. That's it. Like customers, we don't care. Revenue, we don't care. It's funding. And then, and now I'm thinking, man, I was an idiot. Like, what was I thinking? But it is because when you start out, you just follow what the masses are saying, or at least what's getting portrayed in like the tech media, because it inspires you read it and you want to be like it. I wanted to be an interesting person, and I knew like if I got funding, people would think, oh man, they're building a great company, and my parents would think, oh, he got funding, oh amazing. And before Bootstrap was like, man, he's doing a little project on the side.
Yeah.
And so I was just so focused on getting funding, and we didn't get it because the business model was not good enough or whatever. But like my focus was just completely off, and it's because like of how the startup landscape is portrayed. So that was Bootstrap basically while I wanted to have funding, which didn't get it, so we needed to figure it out. And I think with Simple Analytics, that was a very conscious decision made by Adriaan, because he was just like, this engineer, hacker news, anti-Google, anti-funding, anti-media. Like he was just coming in from a very different perspective than me wanting to be interesting. Adriaan didn't want to be interesting. He wanted to build a company. He wanted to have the freedom. He wanted to like grow the business on his own terms. He wanted to have nothing to do with anyone, um, and not be interesting. And I just wanted to be the interesting guy all the time. So Adriaan talked me out of it, and now that was a conscious decision.
Yeah. So a lot of companies are now thinking about this, right? A lot of people are starting companies. They're thinking about starting companies today, and they're going like, should I bootstrap? Should I go for funding? But I think generally one thing that people ignore is that when you're right at the beginning,
Bootstrapped all the way.
yeah. I mean, I generally think you can probably, unless if you're building SaaS, let's be honest, you don't need a warehouse of supply, whatever. I think you can probably make an argument against funding for most software companies, but especially in the early days, your interests don't align with the interests of a VC. VC, the whole idea behind a VC is I invest in 10 companies and one of them is going to do great and a couple are going to do okay and the others doesn't really matter. That doesn't fit with what you need, especially right in the early days. So companies are now gravitating towards this. But I think some people also have a little bit of this grass is always greener, like, funding, you've got VCs breathing down your neck, you got a raise, you're not profitable, you lose control over your company, and all those things can absolutely be true. They don't have to be, but they can. And I would say probably in most cases, they do end up being true to some degree. What are some of the challenges of bootstrapping that you think people either aren't aware of or maybe are aware of but underestimate?
I think you need a bit more like persistence in terms like you have a lot of limitations because you don't have money. Money fixes a lot of things, not everything, because that's why we're consciously bootstrapped. Because what you're saying is, like, I heard a lot of people actually that did the VC route and then sold a company or went bankrupt. I'm never doing that again. I've never heard someone that's bootstrapped say that. Like, next time I want to do VC. No, everyone that is bootstrap and it works out. That's you can just have a business on your own terms. Like, for example, we don't have an exit strategy. Like, we can do this forever. Like we do what we want to do. We wanted to have freedom, and if you like you have the first thing you do is actually get someone in with money. Like, you're still working for someone still, like, not in the traditional way obviously, but you still need to be accountable for whatever you do. So those are the things. If it works out, it's just so nice. Like, being bootstrap, you have a lot of optionality. Like, we don't need funding, but I'm not against funding. So if there's a very strategic play here, we even might think about it. But we have the options. Like, I have all the cards, and the VC or whatever, like, I don't need you. But when you're running out of cash and you build a business with that burns a lot, you'll need the VC and you'll need the follow-up round or whatever. You'll need an extra strategy. You need to have like a investments slide. Pitch decks, like bullshit pitch decks with like TAM, sum, which is like ridiculous numbers always. Okay, but that's enough about VC. So bootstrapping is, I think, in the beginning just way harder because you are so limited by, you just have time is on your side, but you don't have any money. So how long can you do it? Like, how many savings do you have? The first time when my first company at Fix, I lived with my parents and I didn't earn like a single dollar or a euro for a year. So I was earning 0 a month for a whole year. I lived with my parents, which is a luxury. So it's just, okay, that made it work, lived on a bit of savings. Next year, I earned 1,500 a month for a whole year, which was also, and then I moved to Amsterdam, which is expensive, as you all know.
Yeah.
Third year, I was earning 2,000 a month because we weren't growing properly. So I was like, man, you're getting in a lot of shit because you need to pay your bills, and like when you have funding, it makes it easy. You have a bit longer runway, but also like you're in the pressure cooker, which is also sometimes a good thing because then like it needed to happen, or you just
I think one thing that occurs to me is that when you're working in a bootstrapped environment as a founder or a marketer or a marketing team, you're forced to face hard truths earlier. Because when you have money, you can say, oh, maybe this campaign or this channel or this thing. Whereas when you don't have money and you need to do a lot with very little, you need to have the right kind of product market fit. You need to be selling to the right people. And those are some of the basics that are fun. We talk to companies that say, oh, well, we do, 200K and this year we need to do 50 million. And you're like, you know, even if that is possible, you're not going to micro optimize your way from 200K to 10 million. It's big leaps. And the kind of things we see make the difference is you do something in the product or something in the positioning or something in the ICP that substantially changes, the base economics of your company, the feasibility of your commercial motion. So you unlock an ICP that can spend way more money. You pivot from B2C to B2B. It's like these big things are the only things that actually move companies in massive shifts. When you're bootstrapped, you don't need the same massive shifts. Like you say, you have time on your side if you can sustain yourself. But you do have to face those realities sooner because you can't actually delay them, because every month you don't earn money is a month closer to running out of cash and not being able to do it.
No, yeah, 100%. It's just like every day is a reality check. You can't be behind like, hey, I have a nice salary because the VC is paying me. It's just like you get in touch with reality very quickly when you don't have money. So yeah, that makes it. Well, I think there's for both ways. There's something to say. Obviously, like if you're building whatever this hardware stuff, obviously you need funding. But if you like specifically would be looking at SaaS, I would just try to stay bootstrap as long as possible, because you can always take funding if you need it. If you see like a strategic play which gets you like 10x customers, whatever. But you have like the optionality to either do that or go your own way. Because once you get funding, and even like before product market fit, you're like, all right, this is, you're going the VC route and you need to figure it out or you'll die.
Yeah, well, funnily, what I see happen with a lot of companies is when they raise money before product market fit, and if they don't manage to figure out some of these core elements we just talked about before the money starts to run out, they start going into almost thinking like a bootstrap company, because they're running out of cash and they need to extend their runway 3 to 6 months to get that next round. And those 3 to 6 months is usually when the magic happens. That's when, almost every company that's a unicorn pivoted once, twice, or 3 times from their original proposition. And they always happen during that crunch time, when you start running out of cash and you start having to reconsider the core principles of how you're going to grow. Then the magic happens. And I guess bootstrap companies, they just do that from day one. So I think you don't see, all the bootstrap companies that are doing, 10, 15, 20K MRR have product market fit and know their audience. So those success stories stand out more. I want to touch upon maybe like a practical thing.
But wait, one question. What do you think? Because I have an opinion, but I never did VC route. You did as well. You did both. And you're bootstrapping now, you did a VC route. Like, you experienced both worlds.
Yeah, I have both raised VC money and bootstrapped, and I've also worked for companies like Recruity was bootstrapped, 3D House was VC funded, and consulted and engaged with lots of companies, all shapes and forms. Personally, I agree, bootstrap as long as you can. I think there are some great VCs out there who really care about the founders, care about the mission, and really engage. There are a lot of crappy VCs, and the majority are. And there's this very fake culture of when they need something from you or they think you could be interesting, they'll answer every email, they make every effort. And then when maybe it's not going that hot, or you're figuring things out, they don't answer your calls. They take calls while they're on the train, and then every other VC you talk to about is, oh, that's not professional. But there are a lot of questionable VCs out there. But I think fundamentally, it's all about leverage. Everything's about leverage in this sense. And if you could always say, I don't need the funding, I can go by myself, you will always be in the strongest position. And I agree. If you see a strategic reason for raising, that's a whole other story.
Yeah, by all means.
But I just personally believe that with SaaS, it rarely happens that you'll have that big strategic. Like a good example is like with 3D hubs. At one point, we had this distributed network of manufacturers, and one of the big questions is, how do you maintain quality when there's factories across the world? How do you maintain quality? Well, you have to implement this thing called cross-docking. What that means is that instead of sending the manufactured parts to the client, you send them to a cross-dock center, one in Chicago, one in Amsterdam, where parts arrive, you inspect them, and then you send them on. So you kind of try to balance what would happen in a normal factory, which is proper quality control, with this distributed network. That's not cheap to set up. That's like a totally reasonable reason to raise funding, is to say, we have to build this supply chain operational thing. but yeah, with software, like what are you going to do? Oh, we're going to eat up the market share. But these companies, they come and go so quickly that I don't even know how much that really matters. So yeah, I've gone kind of full circle on this. I think with my previous company, we raised too early. And I think we would have benefited a lot from spending the first 12 months struggling in a bootstrapped environment, because we started figuring things out relatively late. In the end, it worked out okay. But I think being in that all high stakes environment, figuring things out, I think that actually gets you to the best. Makes you learn the things you need to learn in order to be successful.
Hmm. Yeah, kind of makes sense. But is it then that VCs have like this? What is it? They also have kind of an image problem, right? Because that was also the thing that was in the back of my mind is just the horror stories people have. And I've never dealt with any VC, so I can't really judge whether it's true. But it's like, man, stay away from a company, basically. Even if I don't know you, but it's like a bad vibe around it, or that's my
They're not all like that,
obviously
obviously.
not. I think most of them are perfectly fine, but it's the thing like if there's a shit VC out there that just treats founders not well, it reflects on the whole VC environment.
Well, and I guess it's not black and white in that sense. There are definitely VCs that are like really great, like people really supportive, and there are really like, terrible VCs. Like there are great companies and terrible companies. Like, but that being said, it is also that model a little bit that, if you've invested in 20 companies and you have 3 champions that are doing really well, and then you have 1 or 2 that are not doing as well, you don't really always put the same attention into those 1 or 2. And the thing that you see roughly is when you ask people, how's your VC? If your company's doing well, the feedback's usually pretty good. Oh, they connect us with great talent and they brought us the money, and that's great. And when they're not doing so well, they're like, fucking hate my VCs. Like that's how it is, right? It's money is the underlying. Every VC is always like, oh, we bring you access to this and that. It's like it's about the money at the end of the day, right? If you didn't bring the money to the table, nobody cares about your network. Nobody cares about, maybe with like very few exceptions. It's really about putting the money on the table and helping your business case. But yeah, I want to bring it back to the practicality, because we do also have a lot of marketers who listen, and they're going to be like, okay, cool, VC, bootstrap, I can't change that. In an environment, let's say a bootstrap environment, or one where like you're working with very little money, you've touched upon this already with some of the things that you guys do. What do you think is the most important ingredients for a marketer or marketing team to be successful when budget is limited?
You need to be creative, right? So that's one thing I'm kind of proud of, that we figured that out. It's like, okay, so that was actually at the beginning when I joined. It was just me and Adriaan. You say, okay, we have 0 monies. Okay, we want to work with SEO. Okay, that's going to take a while, how SEO, but we should invest in it. And then at one point, it's like, okay, can we not think of other things on how to get more of what we already have? So we knew like the first customers, they came from a specific spot. It was Hacker News. So we were like, okay, can we not get more from Hacker News, because that seems to be the only channel which is actually tested and working. But Hacker News is notoriously difficult to get on the first page, and if you get like any promotion, you'll just be like stabbed to death on on the internet. So what we did is actually we created some stuff which we called "How to Hack Hacker News," and what we actually, if you type this in Google, I wrote a blog about it, so it's probably like one of the first hits, and you can read what we did. But we started to see like if there's any news in the tech space, it will probably get to the first page of Hacker News, and a lot of people actually go to the article, read it, or comment or whatever. So we were like, okay. At that point, I think it was like 2.5 years ago, there was Google Analytics had some privacy issues. So, and especially with the GDPR and the EU government, and nobody was like, okay, can we use it? Is it banned or whatever? So what we did, we figured out like if there's some news on Google which is relevant to the tech community, we just have to write about it as the first ones and put it on Hacker News, so people actually think they actually read a news article, but it's just written by us. But it should be obviously very good quality. So what we did is Adriaan built like a little alert system. So when there's anything on Google in the news, we would just get a ping on Telegram, and we would like pens down. This is it. Let's go. We're gonna work on this. And we call it like a war room, which is a bit silly, but all right.
It works.
So what I did was, like, for example, there was thing, Austria was thinking of banning Google Analytics because of privacy reasons. Like, not Austria, but the data privacy agency in Austria. So we are like, the moment when it hit, it came into our Telegram. We read it, and then I wrote this whole thing, which basically replicates the news, but with all like more implications. Like, this is actually what it means, and this is what you can do, and just no marketing, because if you like one like banner or whatever, and you're just done. So only at the last sentence we put like, all right, if you just hate Google Analytics, just give Simple Analytics a spin, and because it was just so informative and so timely, and we were always the first to actually cover it before TechCrunch or before whatever, we just spin it out on Hacker News, and I think we did like maybe like 15 of those, like 15, and probably like 8 or 9 came to on the homepage on Hacker News, but we also put it in like Reddit subreddits and all that stuff. So get like lots of traffic in the door. So we were still focusing on building like thinking long term, building like scalable growth stuff like SEO, like tweak your product led growth, improve your onboarding, pricing, whatsoever. But we still stayed like scrappy and creative, and just try to get more users into like into the door. And I think if you get really like a good balance of that in the first phases, until like SEO kicks in, then you're golden.
Yeah, I think that's a good one, because I wanted to ask you actually, how do you prioritize? Obviously, you have those short-term wins that you need because you're also bootstrap, right?
Yeah.
But you have those long-term strategies. So how did you like prioritize? Or like, okay, we're going to do 2/3 of like short-term, like kind of guerrilla thing versus long-term planning. Like, how did you manage this?
Yeah. So at 10K MRR, we could kind of sustain ourselves. So we could then actually there's a bit of pressure off, because you can pay your bills, and so then you can actually focus a bit more on long term. So the focus was actually long term, but when like these articles hit, we were just like, all right, now is time for short term. Basically, that's it felt very like natural to go in that kind of state or something.
It's really kind of like a PR play at the end of the day, right? Like you found a way to, you found the right channel for your audience, like you say, that channel audience product fit. Yeah, I mean, like this is, I mean, again, I should give a shout out to PR Lab because they're letting us use their space. Yeah, I think the key to PR, people are always talking about, you know, the contacts and the outreaches and the press release, but actually it's just about doing something that's worth writing about. And in this case, what you guys are doing is you're giving real value.
You're the first. That was important.
The first. Yeah, but that is valuable, right? And you were the first, but you also say you put a lot of emphasis, you put a lot of work into these articles. Like you really try to deliver value and deliver the goods. And
so at one point, our account got blocked on Hacker News because the moderator saw what we were doing. And then I wrote a blog on how to hack Hacker News. I wrote it on Indie Hackers, but then someone picked it up and put it on Hacker News. Like, this guy is gaming us. But then it got to the top spot with like a lot of upvotes. And actually, I expected like a bluff path, like this guy trying to game us. But it was actually people saying like, fair enough, but his articles are great. Like, he's providing a lot of value. Like, okay, you can plug, like, it's not a marketing. It is marketing, but it's still value for them. So they were like, okay, fine.
Yeah, but real marketing should be just about creating value.
Exactly.
It's just you create value for people, and then they go, hey, these people create value, and they're interesting, and they believe in things I believe in. So I'm going to check out what else they do.
Yeah.
Which brings me to the thing, because you haven't mentioned it, but I've seen it. Like, you guys are also building a brand, because you're building in public.
Yeah.
I'd love to know more about the decision to do that, because it's easy on the one hand. On the other hand, it's kind of, you know, you're trying to sell to people and then putting everything public. So that's a decision. And you guys have you guys are building a good story. You guys have a really good story. And, the more people get fed up with GA4 or the standard solutions out there, and the more familiar they become with you guys, your brand, your story, the more it's going to click. So how do you guys think about the brand you're building, and what went into that decision to build in public?
Yeah. So when I joined, Adriaan was already building in public, but for us, it made sense on the one hand because we're a privacy friendly company, and so we want to be transparent because that's the brand what we're trying to build. So we want to be transparent, show people what we're doing, show people like like under the hood basically, and show them, okay, this is how we're building a company. We're also not making use of any ads. This is our NPS score. This is how many data points, and also like metrics. So like how much we are earning, and not just the revenue, but also like profit margins and profit, because that's always the thing. That comes to my second point. I think we should talk a bit more, or in general, we should talk a bit more like real about money, because or building a business, because you see so many guys on YouTube, for example, hey, want to earn 10K a day or whatever, and then they're selling courses. Or you see a lot of e-commerce companies saying, hey, we're doing like 5 million a year. It's okay. At the end of the day, how much is that? And
what's the margin?
yeah, I don't care. Maybe if the margin is like 5%, and you can live off it, oh, fine. But everyone is just like throw in really big numbers. Well, under the hood, like we all know it. It's difficult to meet, and it's difficult to build like a business. But from the outside, and everyone seems to be doing like amazing, and especially I think I touch upon it with like VC funding, and hey, they have so much funding, put it on LinkedIn, TechCrunch. It's all about like big numbers. Everyone needs to be bigger, bigger, bigger. And that's what tricked me when I was at Fix, my first company. I need funding, and now we actually want to like show other people you can just build a company which is like you can live off by yourself without funding. You probably should be an engineer. That helps a lot, but no, it's a joke. But I was like, we want to also like be a bit more real. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And you also recently launched another company, Uni Hosted. Could you briefly tell us what is that about and
how it happened?
Like, what is your, let's put it this way, deciding to launch another company when you're running a company, in the indie hacker world, it's pretty standard. You see a lot of indie hackers with several, ventures. In the kind of funded startup world, it's like a no-go. You got to be like 100% in on one thing. How do you balance that? How did you come to make that decision? Wait, first of all, what is it? How did you come to make that decision? How do you balance your focus? And how did you align that with your co-founder?
Yeah, no, good questions. Well, I'll just give you a bit of context to actually understand how it happened. So Adriaan and I have Simple Analytics. We're just with the two of us. And we rented an office. I think it was 2 years ago. But the office was too big for us. So it was like 8 people could fit. We're only with the two of us. So we put on Twitter or X, we put, like, hey, are any indie hackers, which indie hackers, maybe for people listening, is just people building their own stuff, own products, but it's kind of focused on like building and SaaS. So we were like, are there any indie hackers that just want to share an office with us? So we can like indie hacker Amsterdam office. We got a lot of responses, and one guy was building a crypto app, and he joined us for a day. He was a chill guy. He was like, okay, you can rent the office. And he was like, okay, one of our mates is also indie hacker, also looking for an office. So we met him. He got in, and that was Dries. And Dries was building. He was in between jobs, and he was building a Unify, like Uni hosted. He was building Uni hosted at the time. I had no idea what it was. So he was in our office, and I was like, hey, what are you working on? And he said, yeah, is this Wi-Fi management system, but I'm self-hosting it. And it's really annoying. So I'm making a solution to make it like a cloud hosted. This didn't ring any bells with me. It's like,
really technical stuff.
Yeah, what is this? Well, okay. Basically, how I always tell it to people is like, you have your Wi-Fi stuff, like the things which are mounted to the ceiling, right? And you have those at home, but you maybe have like 1, 2 at home, so you don't need a system to manage those. But if you have like a big building and you have maybe like say hundreds of those things, and one is broken, you have this management system that you can like reboot it, or so you can basically remotely fix Wi-Fi at certain locations. Well, this management system is provided by the Wi-Fi provider, but you need to host this management solution. So you need to figure out like hosting. You need to figure out when the firm of like the company doesn't update, you need to update the thing. You need to make backups. So that's why there's always like this IT guy walking around like at big offices, and you have like IT service businesses that take care of this for office buildings and really big companies. So what Dries actually did, he took the solution and he was like, let me automate it. So let me host it for you. So you don't need to care about hosting. So we'll host it. We'll do the backups. We'll do like maintain the security. We'll provide the updates for you. So it's basically like a done for you, like a
Yeah.
host management system. So as an IT service business, you just like you don't need to care about that.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was like, what the fuck is this? I have no idea. And he was building it because he's just in like infrastructure and servers and Wi-Fi. So he told me the thing, and I went to Adriaan and said, okay, go look at this guy. I think he's building something interesting, and look at his code and let me know what you think. And Adriaan came back to me. It's like, man, this is interesting. So the both of us went to Dries and said, hey, you want to make this into spin this into a company? And he was like, a company, like, how do I do that? And how does that work? And then, well, we just started off from there. But by no means I had an intention to start another business, but just like
Just
it
happens.
happens.
Yeah.
And sometimes it just clicks, and then you just like figure it out, and then it works.
And you guys are doing some revenue now, right?
Yes, well, it's like almost 3K MRR, but this is it's like the ideal, perfect SaaS. It's just difficult to build, but quite easy to maintain, high like margins. And so I'm working a day a week on it together with Adriaan. Dries is working more on it. But yeah, that's just slow and steadily increasing, and it's actually that's super nice. And one thing we were thinking about, like, when would you engage with something new, because there's always like lack of focus on the project that is really going well. And then for us is we made this little framework which basically says like what does a company or a project that we want to work on needs to like check. So we wanted, and it's kind of the other way around of like how we normally would do, but I was like, okay, is there already competition in the market? Yes, check. Validation. Like, okay, I'm being very short. Okay, is there a company? Is it B2B? Check. Okay, that's money there. Are there any like SEO opportunities for long term? If there are, just check SEMrush, whatever. And if you see, all right, we can manage to get traffic to our website within a couple of months, check. And then there was one other thing. Oh yeah, can we outcompete the competition like just with a single angle? Just so if they are very expensive, can we make a free plan? If people go rave on them on Facebook that they have shitty support, can we get like proper support? Can we get a brand? Are they good at SEO? Not okay. Can we outcompete them there? So and Uni hosted that like check, and I was like, all right, maybe just let's go.
We have to go now.
Have you published this framework somewhere?
No, maybe on Twitter.
If you do, we'll put it in the show notes.
All right.
All right. So we now going to move on to some, let's say, more short form questions. Answers going to be short. We still have some rapid fires to come. These are not the rapid fires, but just a few short form questions. Clément, you're going to take the wheel here, and yeah, let's go.
All right. So simple questions most of the time and short answer. So what would you say is a controversial opinion that you have?
I hate LinkedIn.
But still using it.
Oh man, not really. But it was also the face palm. It's like, but let's keep it short.
Yeah. All right. Cool. What is your biggest or favorite fail?
Film.
Fail. Yeah, the French accent kicks in.
Like the one that I told you, the sales one was actually like a pretty like that was. I was at the point where I was like, man, I'm such an idiot. Like, how can I sell like a €9 product to like a team for 10 people?
Like, but that is such
a good learning.
It's such a relatable story, though. It's really good. Okay, but while we're at it, what is your favorite film?
Oh, let me think about it. I think there was a film which was called Defiance, and it was like I like this like Second World War film, or at least like if a film starts and it says in the beginning, based on a true story, man, I'm hooked. I mean,
Very good.
Nice.
Nice. Okay. Who do you learn from the most?
ooh, good one. Uh, I think Adriaan, my co-founder.
Cool. What is your favorite marketing or growth tool or tip for 2024?
SEMrush.
Yeah, SEMrush person. Okay, cool. Oh, that's a good one. Oh yeah, so now what we do is the facepalm or the kudos of the
Yes.
week.
Yeah, so every week or every episode, we try to each share a kudos and a facepalm just to kind of shout out some of the good, some of the bad. Do you want to start?
Yeah, I just basically tipped it off already, but it's the facepalm for me was LinkedIn, but not obviously doesn't come as a surprise that I'm maybe not into LinkedIn because I think it's a lot of fluff and VC funding, like basically the narrative we just touched upon. But lately, I think you saw the post I posted with I think you responded on it. It was for the listeners. I made like a screenshot of people that use AI
Yeah.
on LinkedIn, and I didn't think about a long time about the post, but I saw it on Twitter and I just reposted it on LinkedIn with the title "LinkedIn is fucked," and then it got like took off. I had no idea because normally that's also funny. If you think really hard about a post and you craft it, you
doesn't
get
do well.
It doesn't.
really well. And I was
Nico
just
is one thing and two
LinkedIn
words.
is fucked
Yeah.
and like 2,000 whatever likes, but it was just people that are using a AI to respond to a post, and they were just basically saying just exactly the same to get like more engagement or whatever, and just it brings out like I don't think LinkedIn was already a super authentic place, but now it's just
Brings the
like
value down.
brings the value even
Yeah.
more down.
Yeah.
So that would be the facepalm. Kudos. I put some thought on this one, but it's not kind of business related, else related. And I was like, do you know like the hardest geezer? Have you heard
Yeah.
about it? Man, so this is a guy. He run the entire length of Africa,
Yeah.
which is like the most insane thing ever. And he's just a regular bloke. He's like just this regular guy, and he just went on this mission and actually did it, which is man, that's a hat tip. And he said something like, so people ask him like, why did you do it? And he said something um, like, sometimes you need to risk it for a chocolate biscuit, and I like chocolate biscuits. And I was like, man, this is so spot on because actually, if you think about it, what he's doing is just insane. But if like more people did insane things, the world would be a fun place.
Yeah, because he ran more than one marathon a day, I think, for a year, right? It was something like this.
Like
it was something massive.
350 days, and he did 380 marathons.
Yeah.
Insane. Yeah. I ran 7K last week and patted myself on the back for like 6 days. I'm still bragging about it, even because I'm like my running is not my strength. But cool. Very nice. Very nice. Clement, you want to go?
Yes, I'll take it. So probably going to be really original, but I think my kudos is to Jake and Aaron to actually be our first guest on our podcast. Ooh. So before we reach 1 million views, I think that's a really nice one to have. And facepalm, I would say, I struggle a bit to find one this week, but I would say like all the time that you work in companies and that you get like a CEO or a founder as a marketing team that tries to, structure better your work in your marketing team. We want to know what you work on, plan sprints. And so you do that. And the moment that you do that, they still come every day with, and you're going to do that, and you're going to add that. So at the end, the sprint doesn't do anything. I think that's something that's, for me, it's quite fun.
Yeah, they come and throw in 1,000 requirements and then complain that you're not on time.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, my kudos is to all the bootstrap companies out there, including Simple Analytics and UniHosted and all the other people out there who are just strapping on a pair and just building. I think that's one of the hardest decisions to make. And on the flip side, my facepalm goes to a lot of VCs that I'm seeing that after, the market changed, they were like, no, profitability, of course, that's the goal. That's the most important. And they were all acted as if that was always their stance. And now 2 months later, 3 months later, the market has calmed down a bit, probably just temporarily. And now they're all going back to the old ways. You're seeing the same kind of attitudes, not all, but some. So a facepalm to those. And yeah, I totally agree on the hardest geezer thing, by the way. Incredible. Getting over then to our last part, which is just rapid fire questions. These are very, very one or two word answers.
It's or you have to choose one or the other, or it's a 1-2 word answer. All right.
Let's go.
And we do as fast as we can.
All right.
All right. Bootstrapped or funded? Marketing skills or dev skills?
Oh, dev skills.
Co-founder or solo founder?
Co-founder. All day.
SaaS or marketplace?
SaaS.
Amsterdam or Maastricht?
Oh, Maastricht.
Oh, good one. One book you recommend?
Rich Kings of Shanghai.
Biggest accomplishment last year, business-wise?
Getting to 30K MRR.
One advice for a starting entrepreneur?
Just start. Well, like I can explain. Like there's a bit more to it. It's a super cliche, but this has helped me like so good. Is in the sense that everyone wants to be an entrepreneur, or things like about the entrepreneur, like the life of an entrepreneur, right? Everyone is like making plans and strategy, and everyone loves that, and everyone has business ideas, but there's only just a few that actually try something.
Yeah.
And people start reading like business books, but you're basically procrastinating actually because you're reading, you're not doing anything, and you think you're getting smarter or ahead, but there's still nothing, and you just need to get out there, and you can get out there like really easily because now you can spin up a website. And what is like the easiest thing you can do, like is maybe, or just start a newsletter, start writing, and from writing people start reading it, and you want more people, you want to have more readers, and you actually iterate on that, and you meet people, and you get into like conversations, and then at one point you get somewhere. But you need to do like this really small thing to get like the ball rolling. Like I never thought I would be like at Simple Analytics now because I didn't think of the idea, and also like I would be 100 miles away from uni hosted, which I still completely not understand obviously sometimes. But it just happened. It happened to me because I just went out there and I did some stupid stuff with my previous company. Some stuff didn't work, but I got to meet a lot of people. You just need to get like out there and do something, and don't think like reading books and pitch decks and all that bullshit is going to work.
Oh, good one. Okay, and I think I have a last one. All right, so if you go on your LinkedIn, right, you can see that you're actually quite public about what's the current ARR of your companies. So you said that one of your goals is to raise 1 million ARR for Simple Analytics.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you to give me a date on when that's going to happen, and then we're going to see how far off you are when you actually reach the goal.
Okay. The 21st of November, 2026.
Okay.
Very nice.
Perfect.
Very nice.
We'll recontact you at that moment.
I think you guys will do it before then, but let's see. I'm curious. All right, Jeroen. Well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure having you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's like it feels full circle from listening to you with my co-founder at Fix with Niels, and then talking to you. I didn't tell him I was going to be on a podcast, but I'll tell him after, and he's going to be like, "Man,
it was it. It was it." So, is there anything you want to share with people? Is there anything you want to kind of plug? Feel free to like tell people something that they should be checking out, following you about, whatever.
Like the company is simpleanalytics.com. You can follow me on Twitter, which is Iron Brands, which is my real name. It's Jeroen Mans, but yeah, on
Best
Twitter.
name ever, by the way.
Best name ever. Iron Brands. Like the fact that you don't start a brand agency is
no, it's like
a lost opportunity on your name.
Maybe in the future. And one thing that may be interesting, like if you are at the point of like starting something, or you don't really know, you want to like bootstrap building, there's one day a month we actually host Internet Friends, which is like a nerd meetup. Like there's 20 guys at our office just drinking beer and pizza, but they're all kind of like indie hackers that live in Amsterdam. I post on it on X, so you'll see it if you follow me, but feel free just to hang out with us, grab a beer, and talk to some interesting people.
Nice, good one.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Thanks for joining us.